Okay, so excited bringing on Julie Ball, and we just sold her company for multiple six figures, Sparkle Hustle Grow, which is a subscription box business, which I'm definitely going to have her explain in more detail. And she also runs Subscription Box Boot Camp, where
Mhm.
those are her clients' boxes behind her, which I love always seeing that. Some of the clients she works with. So welcome to the show today, Julie. Glad to have you on.
Thank you so much. I love chatting with you. So thanks for having me.
I know, and now the tables are turned. So Julie had me on her podcast last week. So we'll put that in the show notes if you guys want to check out that. She was asking me questions, and so now I'll be asking her questions about the transaction. And she just closed on August 1st. So let's start with that. Talk a little bit about the business you just sold.
Sure. So Sparkle Hustle Grow is a monthly subscription box for female entrepreneurs. Every month it's sent with personal development, business books, office supplies, tech gadgets, like all kinds of fun stuff to help you with your business. And I launched the box in October of 2016. So, right at the time of this recording, we were approaching our 6 month anniversary, which is super exciting. And I know, Christine, you and I have talked about this before, but like that 5 month or that five
Yeah,
six
so
year mark.
six
I meant to say
years,
6 years,
mark.
not 6 months, 6 years. Yeah. When you hit that 5 year mark, sometimes, you have some shifts in your brain and shifts about like what you want to do with your life. And I really hadn't thought about an exit strategy until that 5 year mark. And long story short, a series of events happened where it got me thinking about what does an exit strategy even look like? I never really, nobody had ever talked about it with me before. And so Christine you and I met and you kind of explained like what to expect during a sale of a business. And I knew I was emotionally ready. I knew my family and I were physically ready for the next season because we ran the box business from our house and we did all the packing and shipping. And over the course of 6 years, I mean, we've sent like 65,000 plus boxes, like so many boxes. So imagine the physical labor involved in all of that inventory and whatnot. So we were just ready. And that's when I got connected with Christine and she kind of taught me the ropes. I tend to do things kind of DIY and get a little scrappy, but this was one of those parts of my business that I didn't know what I didn't know. And I did not want to DIY something like this, a transaction this large when there's so much to lose.
No, and I am so grateful for Sarah who connected us because we worked
Yes.
with her on her subscription box business and got her sold real
A
quickly.
teacher
Yeah.
subscription box.
Yes, which was really cool. And so then I already knew that because I had to learn the industry with that one, right? I'm like, wait, I've never, dove into a subscription box model, which let me tell everybody is an incredible business model.
It is.
Sub boxes are super popular right now. It's recurring revenue. You can
Mhm,
work from home, or you can hire outsourced to fulfillment centers. That's kind of cool.
mhm.
And yeah, Julie read 600 boxes a month, which is probably your sweet husband was helping you a lot.
Yes, he was. It was definitely a family run business. Over the years, we had outsourced to different warehouses at different times. But after the pandemic, we were homeschooling. My husband, I was lucky enough to bring him home from his teaching career several years back. And so he took that on as a part time job running our warehouse and then homeschooling our daughter. While I was the face of the business running, with all the financials and marketing and curating the boxes, which is one of the most fun parts.
Yeah. And I mean, you made it so easy for us as a firm. Like Julie's super organized. So I loved that about you. And then also, I mean, you were the face of it. And I know a lot of owners are worried about this.
Yes.
Myself included, even at my spa, I was the face of the spa.
Mhm.
They're like, oh, I can't sell my business because I'm the face of it. And like in Sarah's case, she was, in your case, you were, in my case. So, speak to that a little bit. Did you start kind of pulling yourself like from social media and all that stuff a little bit as you found out, decided you wanted to sell?
Yes, I definitely did. We about 3 months in advance of listing the business for sale. I have a team member that manages social media and email marketing for Sparkle Hustle Grow when I was running it. And so she and I discussed, the plan. I didn't want it to be a secret to her. I didn't want to surprise her with the sale of the business because she and I were really tight. We did keep it secretive from subscribers and general social media. And so we slowly started pulling back my face from all of the posts. I was doing all of the reels. A lot of the imagery was me. And so we started shifting that slowly so that it wasn't going to be an overnight thing and no one was going to notice. And nobody did. Nobody noticed. And then as we were going through the sale of the business, we continued to kind of generalize the social media where it was nobody's face. Do you know what I mean? It was more of, if we did a reel, it was an unboxing video with just our hands unboxing it. It wasn't me as the face anymore. And one of the things that really helped us with the, so to speak, passing of the baton to the new owner is that the new owner, it was a husband and wife team. They came to visit us here at our home office and our warehouse, not only to do some training and count out some inventory, but also to do some of that in-person pictures and video. And we were able to use that to gracefully hand the baton. One of my favorite things, actually two of our favorite things were, one, we did a video together where I said, this is why I'm selling my business. And here's, we've done a lot of work behind the scenes to find the perfect new owner. And here she is. I want you to welcome her. And then she introduced herself. So it was this really great collaborative effort. And then we did this really great reel where it was me taking off my branded, like, logoed hat and tossing it to her as this, like, I guess what would it be, like an analogy of like passing the baton. And we shared that via email, social media, video, YouTube, and in our private Facebook group. We wanted to make sure everybody saw that these transition videos and photos, and it was so well received. I think being transparent about why I was selling and the fact that we had done so much legwork behind the scenes to find the right buyer and that you're going to be in good hands, that really went a long way with our subscribers. And I've just felt so loved on when we first announced it. We didn't get any negative feedback. I could not believe it. I was nervous, but I felt like we really put a lot of intention behind the sale of the business and that transition, and that, made such a difference.
Good. I love that you touched on that because, again, I love doing these interviews. So somebody thinking about selling their company or in the process currently these are their questions, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, how did your clients take it? How did you tell your clients? How did you tell your team? So yeah, I did, I love after my sellers sell, I'll wait a couple weeks, and I know you guys will tell me, hey, we're making the announcement this
Yeah,
day. I know you guys waited a few weeks.
we
And
did.
then I'll check all the socials, right? Once you make that announcement and I start reading all the comments, and I just get so happy. And it's always, and I tell all my sellers, like, don't worry, like, usually they're going to be so excited for you, so proud. Like, I know you're scared to tell your clients, but
I
don't worry
was.
about that. And then let's speak to the employee side when you
Mhm.
told your team.
Yeah, I had a small team, and I let them know. Well, like I said, my right hand gal, I let her know from the get go, like, this is the game plan. And I needed to have those conversations with her too, because she might want to move on with the new business owner and support them in any sort of role. And she was open to that. And that is helping the new business owner kind of get through some of the weeds, like when you buy a business, it's like she had said, it's like drinking water out of a fire hose, because you're learning a whole new job, all new systems. And having my team member there to help her just was really, really great. With the rest of the team, I waited till we were a little further into it. Like, I just didn't want to cause any alarm, but I'm lucky enough that I'm close, like very close with my small team. We're all friends and we're all like cheerleaders for each other. And so when they heard that, like, when I told them why I was selling, they got it. Like, they understood, like, my family is ready for our next season. They all have young families as well. So they really get it. Like, kind of like when you start checking out of your corporate gig or any other job that you're at, you get that gut feeling. You're like, uh, it's time. And I was having that feeling, and nobody wants to, you know, be unhappy in their job. Nobody wants to have to show up. You want to get to show up to what you do, your work. And I was passionate about that, and I had lost some of that spark. And I think part of that is because of tapping into, like, how is my family feeling about this? What does our next season of life look like? Because this coincided with my daughter starting middle school, and I need to be there as a mom. I felt like I needed to be there a lot more for her during this kind of weird and awkward and scary time for her. So it's been such a blessing, both to my family to move into our next season and to the new owners as they were ready to move into their next season.
And I mean, again, and I know I said at the beginning, you were running your coaching
Yeah.
business simultaneously. Uh,
Yes.
so yeah, you're a rock star. And so it was so much fun working with you. We were such a fun team, so
Mhm.
talk about the pitching. So once, obviously once our firm, pre-qualified people, with all the inquiries, and you had an amazing amount of inquiries coming in. It was exciting. Everything happened really quickly. Yeah, talk about that from your perspective of like getting on Zoom and doing the
Mhm.
pitch meetings.
One of the things that I love the most about this whole process was that season where we were doing those pitch calls, because one, I knew that you were vetting these people before they got to me. So these weren't going to be tire kickers. These were going to be people that you've already had conversations with to make sure they signed their NDA, to make sure that they learned about a little bit about the business. You talked to them about like proof of funds and financial situations to make sure that the people you were bringing to me were actually real prospects. And so I could show up knowing that, and that it wasn't going to be a waste of my time. I'm not shy in front of a camera or whatever. So like pitch calls were really easy for me. It's just like I get to talk about my business, and I get to talk about like the things that I love the most about my business. And through this whole process, I was getting this like renewed energy behind it, because as I was sharing things with you, Christine, you were saying, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Do you realize what you've done here? Like this is such a great business." And it was giving me that confidence that I needed to kind of get excited about the business again. The pitch calls were pretty easy. I would just tell them a little bit about the business, why I'm selling, and then I would get to learn about them as well. I wanted to, you told me early on that I have full control of who I sell it to. I can say no to any offer. And so this was also an opportunity for me to get to know the potential buyer. Like, do I see this as a good fit for the future of Sparkle Hustle Grow? Do they, have some of the experience that I would think an ideal buyer would need? And so I really liked those calls. You would have the awkward conversations, so I wouldn't have to. That was one of the things that I loved the most about hiring you guys, is you would have those awkward conversations about money or whatever in advance. But also, if they asked a question on one of those pitch calls that I was just like, Christine, like I just pass it to you, and you were like, boom, like you knew exactly what to say. You knew how to handle the situation. If we didn't have the information we needed, you were so great about, I'm going to make a note of that. We're going to follow up with you on that. Whereas sometimes I'd be like a deer in headlights, like, I don't know. And then you just handled it so gracefully. So I actually enjoyed those calls. They were a lot of fun to just get to know people. And yeah. And I wanted to say too, before we move on, like one of the things you mentioned, like how nervous I was and how normal that is for people to sell their business. Like, what are people going to think? I can tell you from being on the other side of it now, when you're transparent about why you're selling, like people will respect that. And all those feelings of guilt or fear, I wish that I hadn't self-sabotaged myself with those, because we just felt so much support. People were like, good for you, not like, why would you do that? So I just wanted to close that loop on that conversation too.
No, I love that you said that, because again, that is my sellers like number. That's a big worry of
Mhm.
theirs.
Yeah.
And it's always amazing. And even myself, I've sold multiple businesses, and every time I go to sell, I'm like, no, I'm scared. Like, what
Mhm.
are they going to think or say? I feel
Right.
guilt, or that guilt, right? And
Yeah.
then, yeah, they're so, yeah. So I think that's just natural
Yeah.
for all of us to feel that way, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially when you care so much about your business and you care so much about
Mhm.
your clients.
Yeah.
So that's great that you said that. So let's talk about so we find this, yeah, and I have no problem talking about money or negotiating or terms. Like I love jumping right.
That's your
Like I just
jam.
go right to jump in, I see the deer in headlights and I'm like, nope, I'm already on it.
Mhm. Yep.
Let's talk about terms. Let's talk about money. So let's talk about now you got an accepted, what is called an LOI, letter of intent. We found these amazing buyers. The LOI comes in full price, all cash. Like, what was your first feeling or thought, Julie?
Oh man, I was like, when you said it was full price, that was just like so telling to me that you knew what you were doing. Like, and it made me feel really proud of what I had built too, that someone else saw the value in it. Because when you think about an online business, like that didn't include the inventory, so that was like selling the business outside of like the physical items. And for someone that was so well qualified, like the offer that we accepted, they were so well qualified and so passionate about taking over this business that like I just was almost like this mama bear moment, like, oh, I'm sending my child off to college, or like they're growing up. And it was a moment that I felt really proud and excited. When I got that offer that was full price, and it was the buyers that we wanted. My family was so excited too, because we had prayed about it a lot together, and it's scary. You don't know, there's just so much unknown. You don't know what you don't know, but these people that you're talking to and you're pitching to, they're new to you. Like I didn't know any of these people before these pitch calls. And so one of the things that I loved about the LOI is the buyer profile, where you ask the buyer to tell a little bit about themselves and their qualifications, kind of what they see for like a loose business plan. Like, what do you see for the future of this business? And when I read the buyer profile and how excited they were about buying my business, oh man, it was just like this huge weight had been lifted off of me.
No, and I'm glad you brought up buyer profiles. So it's funny. So it's very rare to see those. And I
Hmm.
can't remember, maybe it was like 8 months ago. Well, it was when we were getting, I know when it was. It was like November, December of last year, because we were getting multiple offers on some of our listings. I mean, we had 6 offers on one listing, six
Hmm.
amazing buyers where I'm like, and they just kept like outbidding. It was like a bidding
Yeah.
war. And then I think then I'm like, oh, I would be cool for them to put like this buyer profile together. So then my seller sees high level what they're going to do with the business, how much they care. Copy it's a credits, snapshot of their credit score, proof of funds. So I want to see a bank statement. Like again, when you have 6 LOIs, we have to make sure these are like legit. When you're going
Yeah.
back and forth between everybody, you don't want any of them to fall out.
Yeah.
Once you choose one. So yeah, and we just continue doing those because I think the sellers appreciate seeing like, oh wow, like they really and then the buyers are putting some work into it, not just a
Yeah.
simple LOI, but here's buyer's profile, here's what we want to do with the business. So no, I'm
I
glad you brought
agree.
that up.
Yeah. And it could be the deciding factor if you've multiple offers. Like, who do you want to sell it to? Not just based off of the money.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we
Mhm.
just had one where the owner took another offer. Came in at more money. And it's funny because the one original offer, he didn't even really want to get on a Zoom again. We were like, hey, let's get on another Zoom to like ask any final questions or
Mhm.
like when he submitted LOI. And so I was just like, dang, that rapport wasn't built. So just any
Yeah.
buyers listening to this, like just know you just really put your best foot forward, be
Mhm.
nice, like build rapport with the seller, because yeah, you guys have to get along and you kind of need to win them over a little bit in a
Yeah.
seller's market right now. So yeah, no, and yeah, your buyers are incredible. It was like, yeah, I'm always excited that our sellers find amazing buyers because it makes it
Yes.
that much sweeter. um so then, okay, we got the offer in. Now, next up is due diligence. So what were your thoughts, Julie, when you first, you already know I'm gonna
I
say.
was,
So
yeah.
I get this, well, I get everything first, right? I get to
Yeah.
find out the LOI, I get to see the price first. I get to see all the exciting stuff first. I see this due diligence, because they obviously, great, smart people, buyers, had a great
Mhm.
team on their side, on the lawyers and, hired a firm to help them through the process. So sometimes people will go that route. Well, this firm does multi-million-dollar deals. Like I already knew it by the time when they sent me the due diligence checklist that was like 15 pages long, and I'm like, oh, oh my god. And they were like, Julie, I'm gonna send you this checklist.
Don't panic.
Don't panic, and you're gonna write NA on a lot of it because it doesn't
Mhm.
apply.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you crushed it because that was I've never seen one that long. It's like, oh my.
Yeah, and I don't blame them. Like, I would definitely, if I were spending that amount of money on something, I would definitely want all the, I's dotted and T's crossed. So I don't blame them at all. But on
Yeah.
my end, it was definitely a lot of work. Um, if I could give any advice for something like that, think of it as a checklist and start at the top, go down to the bottom, go through each one and just get organized. And that was my saving grace, was for every kind of section of the due diligence, I had a separate folder on Google Drive, and I would just slowly drop the files in there, or create the file, whatever I needed to come up with. Um, and that was probably the hardest part, and the most stressful part, and the scariest part. The most stressful being, I had to pull things that I was unfamiliar with. Like, it wasn't, I don't spend a ton of time in my QuickBooks because I have an accountant that does that. So I had to go in there and learn some of that, to clean it up, just to make sure, because I had two businesses, parallel entrepreneur, had two businesses going into the same QuickBooks account. So I had to make some adjustments in there so that they could see what was for this side of the business that they were buying. And so that was a lot of work for me. In hindsight, if I were to run two businesses at the same time, I will have separate accounts, so that it would be easier to see a snapshot at any given time. Lesson learned. And I think the scariest part of the whole process for me was giving the buyer's accountant free reign to view my QuickBooks, because you start to second guess yourself, like, oh, what are they going to think of my Starbucks habit, or like, what are they going to think, that I made bad business decisions? And in the end, it was not a problem at all. It was just me being a little bit nervous, because a third party, was going to come in and be able to run any report, look at any transaction that I had done in the business. And that's fair. Like, they should be doing that. They should be digging in to make sure that their client is getting the full story, that there's no, little white lies, or there's no like surprises. And we were really transparent about any mistakes over the years. We were really transparent about, we had done last summer, we had done some, renovated our warehouse, or this was 2 summers ago, renovated our warehouse, so that we could use it as a packing and shipping facility. Well, that's not an expense that the buyer will need to have in the future. So I felt like I had a little bit explaining. So I, made a list of notes, so that I was trying to proactively answer any questions that might be like, what's going on with that number? So yeah, that was my experience. That was the part where I think I didn't take any calls other than you. Like, I didn't do any other calls or meetings or anything during that 2-week time frame. So I could really focus in on that and just like knock it out.
I love it. And you were just so great about growing. You already know my analogy about running running a marathon. So you're at mile 23. And I'm like, Julie, you're going to sprint the last 3 miles. And you did, without a doubt. You ran, you got creative, you ran promotions, you just got, your revenue while it was listed. Oh, and how many days again was it from start to finish?
94.
94 days. So we took her to market and she sold within 94 days. The money was wired into her account. So it's very quick. So it's 3 months. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So those 3 months, she was kicking butt, grow, 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 because you don't want to take your foot off the gas pedal, right? That doesn't look good to someone that's going to buy your business.
Right.
So you were great about that, but I would love to hear, what advice would you give to somebody that's thinking about selling their business? So you kind of talked about separate books, which I've made the same mistakes. So don't feel bad.
I'm over it now. I'm good.
Yeah.
So advice, I think it was so important for me that I was emotionally ready when I first chatted with you about what does that look like. I had talked about it with my family. I had done a lot of reflection. And when you and I had our first consult, you asked me that question: are you emotionally ready to buy or to sell? For instance, if you listed today and somebody came, and gave you that dream number that you had said that you wanted for your business, are you ready to sell? Like, or do you need to sit on it and think about it or whatever? Because you had told me time kills all deals. Like, we need to move quickly. This realistically could happen very fast for you because you've built an amazing business. It's got good profit margins. And so I think that my advice to you is to really reflect and prepare emotionally. What does it look like to sell your business before you start going through the motions of actually, putting the listing together? I am somewhat of an emotional person. Like, this felt like very emotional transaction. And I tend to silo my emotions so I don't have to deal with them. That's like a personal flaw. But I took this head on because I knew this was, something that was going to impact me, impact my family. even something as simple as like a pros and cons list. Like, these are the good things that could happen if I sell. These are the good things that could happen if I keep the business, and then do cons lists. Like, what are the cons of selling and what are the cons of keeping? And just start to work through some of those emotions so that when you get to that part of your journey where you're talking with Christine and she's saying, okay, your listing goes live tomorrow, you're not having a panic attack overnight, or you're not crying your eyes out because you don't know what's happening, or if you really want to do this. So I would say, and I know, Christine, you're woo. So like, I'm part woo. It's like, think to yourself about, manifesting and dreaming of what does your next season of life look like without this business. And I think that can really help you get your head clear and be emotionally prepared to sell your business.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Perfectly said. So now let's get to the really good part. The day you saw the money hit your account, what was
Yeah.
your initial feeling or thought?
Oh, well, it's real. Like, this is really happening. And it's funny because when the buyers were here doing the training in advance of the sale, um, that was one thing that Carol had said a couple times. She's like, this is it. We're really doing this. We're buying a business. And I could totally relate to that feeling, because on my end, I was like, this is it. This is really happening. I'm selling my business. And when the money hit the account, that was the most money that was ever in my business bank account at any snapshot in time. And that was just something to feel really good about. And it felt like this deep sigh of relief. The work wasn't done. We still had to do training. We still had to do, pack up the inventory and ship it cross country. So some of that work wasn't done, but it just felt like we had hit the next mile marker, in that marathon you talk about.
And did you screenshot it?
Oh, I did. I did it on my cell phone. Of
I
course, I screenshotted it, and then
always
then I put it in my favorites album on my phone.
Oh yeah, I love no, I do the same, but I also screenshot, one of my businesses, we had 17 cents in our bank account for 2 weeks straight. Even my bookkeeper, this is a true story. In my big spa that I had exited.
Mm,
So I had that screenshot too. So you
mhm.
just
Yeah.
it's the realities of being a small business owner, right? So it's
Mhm.
like, oh my God, we had
Yeah.
17 cents in our bank account for 2 weeks. Like, how do we even do that? And then
Yeah.
boom, here's the big screenshot of it, that's the stuff you have to go through, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
It's almost surreal when that happens.
Oh yeah. No, it's for sure to see how much money in the account's surreal. And then okay, so two last questions. Or no. So we already talked about that. The last question is, what is your life now after you got that, the money appears in your bank account? What is your life after sale? So you close, so now so we're like almost 2 months out, right, from the
Mhm.
sale. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first 30 days still felt like I was a huge part of the business, because I was doing trainings. We had put together a lot of videos and a lot of documents, but there is that level of, answering questions, preparing. We waited for 17 days to actually announce it to our subscribers, very strategically, because we wanted to wait till after the next renewal, but also to give the new owners a couple weeks to learn the ropes behind the scenes. Once that hit, the level of involvement really went down, and I started to feel that margin in my life. After about 30 days, the new business owners, they really were getting a grasp on, what this looks like. The subscription box model is very cyclical. So you learn a 30-day time frame, and then you just repeat that 12 times each year, And so I'm available for questions via email, and then we use, Voxer, which is like a walkie-talkie app on our phones, to chit chat back and forth. So the level of involvement at this point is just, a message here or there. So I have so much more margin in my life, so much more free time, and I have so much more excitement about the other business that I had, because now I can like really take the time and pour into it. So that's been really great. The other thing that has really been impactful for me is we've had a lot of really weird things happen to us lately. I don't know, the whole Mercury and retrograde thing, maybe that's it. But like, I got food poisoning last week. My parents, they're fine, but they were in an accident, and we had to go pick them up, like, 150 miles away, and host them for a few days because their car was undrivable. Like, all these really random things were happening, and they were unplanned things. And I said to my husband, I'm really grateful that I can be really present during these moments, and really like give myself the time to, for example, when I got food poisoning, like, I didn't feel stressed about missing emails and missing deadlines of the business that I used to run. And I was able to rest better, and really take care of myself. And then we were able to really show up for my parents to help them out when they needed help. And I kept saying to my husband, like, I'm really grateful that we sold the business when we did, because I can't imagine the stress I'd be under right now trying to show up for these unexpected events, but also running these two parallel companies at the same time. And so that's been one of the things that I've been just really reflecting on and really grateful for, was that margin, that time that I have to be more present. But I'm just like super jazzed about the other side of my business now, like renewed interest.
I love that. Well, that is a perfect point to end our interview on. And Julie, again, you were a joy to work with. It was so much fun. Great team. And you built such an incredible business, like seriously, something you should be proud of. And
Thank
those are
you.
the companies, and that's why they sell so fast, right? If somebody builds
Yes.
this incredible company, it's going to sell quickly, and we know
Mm.
that. So, yeah. So thanks for
Oh,
coming on.
thank you for having me and for being, my partner in crime during this journey. You and your team were so amazing. I'm usually the cheerleader for other people, and even the cheerleader needs a cheerleader. And I felt like you guys were that, not only making sure the right paperwork was done, the right conversations were being had, but you were also very supportive in a moment where I felt unsure of myself in my entrepreneurial journey. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks, Julie.